Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video. Did you see how much I got done on my sewing room? I know, it's really a lot. And you know, some of it is going to another area of the house, a front porch that's nothing but storage. It's kind of climate controlled, but they enclosed a very old front porch on a 100-year-old home. And while it's too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter, you can't really even put plants out there. So I decided it's going to be a storage area, and it's got bookcases and some things that I want to keep and go through, and that's where all the fabric and some of my other crafting supplies are. This room is only 9 by 9, and if you noticed, my sewing machine is in here. I have never sewn in this room. I have, in fact, never have owned a sewing table, and I ordered one. It's coming this week, and hopefully the card table that the sewing machine is currently on and bounces like crazy will be my plant table in another room. And then I'm just going to keep going. This is going to be a little bit every day, 15 minutes at a time. I'm going to follow Karen Brown's. She has a really good process with prompts daily for 21 days. So this is day 16. I have not caught up because I'm still going through and finding trash. What doesn't belong here? What do I want in here? And kind of staging this room the way I want. And then I'm going to take the whole rest of the winter and de-stash and donate, find homes for different projects. Like my sister is taking all of my yarn. They're scraps. If I want a yarn project, I'll go buy the yarn. She has a knitting machine and she can make lots of great things with it. I'm not going to sew clothes, so I'm giving my sister my serger. It's I can't keep it threaded, and it's very difficult for me to see in the little area and thread, so I'm not going to do that. I might sew goose clothes for my daughter. She got a goose for Christmas, and that might be a whole nother adventure and video on the clothes. But they don't have to have a serge finish, right? They're clothes for a yard goose. You know, the cement or plastic kind? Yeah, that's going to be a sewing adventure later on. So what have I got left? Let me look at my new whiteboard that my husband hung on the wall. I bought it last summer. Go figure. You know, so where I have not done is decluttering rulers. I have a ton, and I also inherited a stash, and there are lots of rulers. Some are not safe. Those will be thrown away. Some will be given to other people. I have my favorites, the ones that I've purchased and that are, I don't like certain rulers. Like OmniGrid is great for when I started because they were affordable, but I can't see on them. And I'm going to keep the square up ruler that's my favorite, which happens to be a Marty Mitchell. I'm going to keep all the Creative Grids rulers because it's my favorite. And anything else that I can't see or I feel they're so old and brittle they're going to break, believe me, there's probably 50 rulers to go through, and I'm going to trash the unsafe ones and find homes for the other ones. So rulers, notions, that would be, we already did thread and we did pins and needles, but notions like zippers, interfacing. Oh my gosh, I got so much interfacing, you know, paper piecing things, papers, thangles, all kinds of things like that. So I have to go through that. UFOs, I've gathered those up last year, so that's not going to be too difficult, but I want to share a couple of UFOs that I will be working on this year. And kits. I don't have any kits, and I don't put all of my fabric in idea bins with patterns. So that was super easy. I have one or two that I want to separate when I get to that and put the fabric in my stash. And then I still need to do more organizing. So I'm doing like things with like things, and I'm kind of putting them where I like it to be. But by no means, we have not started organizing. We're just gone through day by day trying to get trash out, things that don't belong, and breathing space. I really think I'm going to like sewing in my little room here. It's in front of a window with lights. I have some artificial lighting because, I do live on the 45th parallel. It's January. We get light a couple times a month. It feels like we've only had a few days of sunlight over the last month. And, so this is going to be great. I've always sewn on the dining room table to be in the middle of everything, to watch, kids, to watch dogs, to have conversation with my husband. But the beauty is this room is right off the dining room. So I can keep the door open when he's home. We can still have, some conversation, but I'm not going to be interrupting his shows when he's trying to watch TV. My long arm is in another room. That station is set up the way I like it. And I've just got, a little bit more. This is going to be a year-long decluttering project. So I wanted to share this cute little thing. I got it from IKEA. And this is what I put my patterns on while I'm sewing. And I want to show you what I'm currently working on. I know I started a project. So I decided that if you want to see all the 23 and 23 items, and the kickoff and introduction was last week's video, and then I did an audio podcast about all of the 23 things I want to do in 2023. And I want to keep sewing. I really went through a time after I had COVID and then was diagnosed with long COVID last year. Can I sew again? My brain really was affected. I had a lot of cognitive problems, and I'm finding I don't want to design things from scratch right now. I just physically can't do it. But I love Lori Holt. I discovered her via Fat Quarter Shop in her things outside of Farm Girl Vintage. And January, they're starting a year-long sew-along called So Scrappy Spools. So I have a ton of scraps. So I have a thatched tan color like this. It's a little bit light, so I'm going to audition it with the first block before I do a lot of cuts. So some of my tips and tricks is that I have been doing social lights to remind me how to sew. This is a weekly sew along, and I have one more block I'm going to do today. We're on block 11. And Kimberly Jolly does full video tutorials. And so we've been learning all kinds of techniques on quilting that just wasn't coming, and flying geese was one of them. But Lori Holt's directions are great. This is a purchase pattern from Fat Quarter Shop, and the mapped out schedule, there we go. So forgive my long COVID once in a while. Recall is tough. So we're doing is the 4 patches and cabins this week, and I'm looking to see if they are on the picture, and they're not really well pictured. So let me show you what they look like. 4 patches. Great, easy place to start. You need 4 for this quilt, which is a twin size. So I'm just using scraps. I'm pulling things that I think look good together. I have taken a couple classes about using color wheels, and I'm kind of more of an intuitive thing. If I like how it looks together, I'll use it. But I'm trying to not just throw all the kitchen sink in here. So what I did is I went on Pinterest and I downloaded a few Lori Holt palettes, because she does have a pretty distinct color palettes that she works with. And I feel like this represents some of it. Now I'm going to keep adding fabrics as I go. But the cabin, this has got a couple more rows, is kind of like a log cabin. Aren't these super cute? So a couple more. Here's the little dot. So I've got, 2 more rows to go on it. And here's the last one. I did this and the last Socialites block at a retreat, a 1-day retreat Saturday, which fell right in line with Karen's prompt, which was take a break, take a breather, spend time with family and friends. So let me show you the Socialite block that Lori Holt did. It's an interesting segue, right? It was small. It's only 6.5 inches, has lots of pieces, and it took me most of the day, but I did it. So let me show you the block called Flourish. And here it is. Look at that. I'm like, 8 sets of flying geese are not my favorite, and they have given me trouble for the past 10 weeks. But I like these little square in the squares, and the next block has 5 of those units. And I really like this unit. I'm thinking a whole quilt with that unit would be super cute. Here, close up. Check it out. There's a couple spots there. The points are lost, and a couple spots where they're not perfect. Who cares? They're this small, and they're going to sit in a star. Love it. So I'm proud. This took me several hours to do. And so I'm really on the Lori Holt bandwagon. So the thing that we needed to identify are UFOs. And the UFOs that I've chosen to work on outside of these 2 sew-alongs are, I started before I got sick, and then I had to put them away because I just couldn't remember what I was doing or how I was even doing it. Oh yeah, it's just terrible. So a friend of mine recommended a Corey Yoder video on scraps and how to combine them and how she combines them. Now, Lori and Corey and a whole bunch of people have the luxury of using scraps that they designed, and they're all of the same color palette, tones, values. But she's doing a lovely sew-along, and it happened to be a free pattern that I started this year. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick it back up. I'm not going to dump it like I was kind of thinking, because I've been inspired to try to do it again. And the free pattern is this. We talked about this last year. Scrappy Irish Chain by Jessie Fincham. Now, there's a couple things in here that Corey's updated. So Corey Yoder has a lovely YouTube channel, and she is going to be doing videos on this, sew-alongs, and updates on cutting directions and a few little errors that might have snuck through in this particular free copy. It's free, these things happen. So I'm going to dig mine out. Mine is not in these bright colors, but see, I think the success in this is having a unifying color on the edge and the white, and so does Corey. She's using, of course, yellows and grays and a whole lot of teals and things that are in her color palette, and I have shown some of these before, but they're in the scrap bin that I have lots of these deep saturated tones from yesteryear. I mean, some of these are a little dated, right? I mean, burgundy and hunter green, and then I found some golds and navies. But I do love it. And it's brighter than I remember. See, this is the thing. When you have a medical condition that it affects your cognition, I'm going to be just upfront here. You don't remember things accurately. I don't remember these colors being like this. I remember them being all brown and horribly flat, and how disappointed I was because it wasn't bright like those. But this is still going to be a lovely quilt, and I'm starting with the 9 patches. There's lots and lots of 2.5-inch squares in here. You could throw in your mini charm packs. You could do all kinds of things to unify your color palette. So this block with the white is a connector block. So I chose, this burgundy red, shades of hunter green blues, navies, golds, and other types of fabric that would go together, like even this particular floral, because it has all of those colors in it. So those were the parameters I set for myself. And I even found one with, look at that, isn't that pretty? So I thought, you know what, this isn't the epic disaster I remember it. And this is some advice. When you put something in timeout, like I did with this particular, and these are all the squares I have done so far, not a ton, I think you should let it sit for 6 months or so, then come back to it and go, is that really as bad as I remember it? This one wasn't, and I was inspired to work on it again. So the other quilt that I haven't finished that I started is the Great Granny Squared. It's a Lori Holt pattern, and I'm not going to get all of these blocks out, but I'm just going to show one in my container. You're going to see a light from my light ring. But this, I also used a color palette that was reminiscent of embroidery that originated in Mexico, and I love the bright, happy, clear colors. So I'm just going to get the stack out and kind of flip them through just so you can see the color palette, because it's, oops, sorry. I gotta put that box down. So I love this orange, green, lime, but I have every pinks, purples, some oranges, the turquoise, some pretty wild and crazy colors. And these are all 17 and I only need 20. This one's going to be done pretty quickly. So that is what I'm going to work on this year. If I have time, I might piece some more out of the Scrappiness is Happiness book. And I also have a challenge that's kind of improv that I've been thinking about. But, you know, you can dream big, but I have to be realistic. And that's kind of what happens, right, when you get so much stuff in your room, in your crafty space. It becomes suffocating, and you have too much stuff that you had too many dreams that you're going to get it all done in a year, and then they kind of get pushed aside because you find more things. Not going to do that. I'm going to slow down. But I'm not going to trash tons of fabric, but I'm going to go through and try to sort it. My goal for this year is to sort and organize my fabric. Right now, it's just kind of stuffed in bins. And the tall black, let's just shift this. This is a IKEA Calyx system. And see, on top, it's still got lots of stuff. Each one of those drawers is a bin. And right now, it's messy. And so I want to just keep, I have 2 of these systems. The only fabric I'm keeping in here are scraps in here. They're all going to be colors. I'm not doing by size. I'm not doing, the pre-cutting stuff that Lori Holt does, like all your scraps, cut them to 2.5, 1.5, 3.5, all the way up to 10. No, I'm not doing that. If they're smaller than a fat quarter and I'm sick of it, it's going in the garbage because they're just scraps. Some things that I'll never use, they're going to be donated. But most of the things I want to sort in these drawers by color. And I think I will use all of the scraps better that way. And my friend had her things. She had them all organized by color. And I like that much better. So that's what my goal is. Fabric is the last thing that you do in the Declutter Challenge, and it's going to take a long time. And that's why I decided it's not going to be a 21-day challenge. If I keep up on this, next year when I do it, 21 days, I can spend 15 minutes a day and it'll be done. I vowed I was never going to be in this position again. However, it happens. I've done this kind of deep declutter most of the time, and my whole goal is to have just a few scraps on hand that fits in those bins, and that I only have purchased things that will be for a current project. And I have really, really, really made a vow to myself several years ago that I'm not going to get caught up in the FOMO or the overconsumerism that is in crafts and quilting especially. I know in yarn it probably is too, but quilting it's there. Not to knock all of, the designers and the great choices we have out there, but I need to exercise discipline, not waste money, and just do what I'm realistically going to be able to do. And that is the end of today's video. I am pretty happy with the progress I made. If you want to see the before, you can check out the video I did last week. And yeah, it was getting to a point where just getting people in my house was like, oh, there's just so much crafting stuff everywhere. But it's not that way anymore. The other decision I made this year is I'm only going to long arm for myself and a couple of friends, and that's also a huge amount of stuff that winds up in your house. Lots of customer quilts. They're large, and they have a lot of batting and fabric, all bundled in bags, but it's like it's got to go somewhere, and for some reason it came here. And yeah, it's not gonna happen because I removed the big ironing board and put it up by the long arm. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the progress, and I'm very happy with getting inspired to do some sewing and to work on my projects. I'll put links in the description for Socialites, Scrappy Spools, the free pattern for the Scrappy Irish chain, and the Great Granny Square link is a purchase pattern. And, just to be transparent, I'm going to put a link to Fat Quarters Shop's affiliate link they have for me. And so if you do choose to buy anything from Fat Quarter Shop, you will support the channel by purchasing the item and get a small amount of money for the sale, but it doesn't cost you any extra. Now, some other things that people have done to support the channel is to purchase me a virtual cup of coffee. And that is just enough over the last couple of years to help defray the cost of continuing to produce and put videos and podcasts and a blog up. So if you want to check that out, you can go to the website, My Creative Corner 3, and there's a link to my Ko-fi account. Or if you have an account on Ko-fi, it's ko-fi.com. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next week.